Hello everybody, today we're going to take a look at this new North Carolina congressional map. This happened last month and of course it's going to be subject to court challenges, but it's time we take another look at this map and there's not a lot of changes compared to the old map. It's just designed to shore up one additional Republican seat. So we'll look at the old map and the new map and we'll see what a fair map should be. So let's get into this, and we've already seen multiple new maps out of North Carolina just since the last census. It's a pivotal state, it's considered a battleground, but Republicans do control the state legislature. They also control the state Supreme Court, while Governor Josh Stein, who is a Democrat, does not have a say in vetoing these maps. So this is another chapter in the ongoing mid-decade redistricting cycle. States are looking to squeeze additional seats out of their maps, and this map was already clearly imbalanced, arguably the least fair, where Republicans have the most lopsided advantage. So the process for how this happened is listed here. It passed the state Senate and the House, and unless it gets struck down, Don Davis is going to be the vulnerable Democrat. He was already vulnerable, but he managed to hang on in the last election. So assuming the map holds up to legal scrutiny, we'll look at the minimal changes in just a minute, but first let's get a refresher on the map that was used in the last election. So here it is. We've got 14 districts in total, and these are color-coded to help you see the boundaries. Now what we could do is toggle the individual precincts so you can see where the red and the blue vote is. So now all of a sudden the map looks completely different. So a simple way to look at it would be to focus on the major cities. That's where most of the blue vote is concentrated. That's going to be Raleigh, Durham, Greensboro, Winston-Salem, and then over here in the western part of the state you have Asheville. The most populous city though is Charlotte right here, and each congressional district here has about 745,000 people. Now Charlotte has more than that, so all that blue vote could technically be packed into one district. Then whatever's left over can be absorbed into the surrounding redder districts, and that is exactly what happened here. It's always tough to know when a city is large enough to crack as opposed to packing, but Dems would love to crack this and get 2 districts. So that's one of the blue ones. And how many other blue ones are there? Well, if you toggle this to show the partisan lean of each district, you can see in addition to that one here in Charlotte, there's 2 other dark districts. Again, Durham and Raleigh. Then over here in the northeast, there's one lighter blue district. Now, if you look over here on the right, it's a little bit hard to see, but they have the 2016 to the 2022 data here. And if you hover over this first district, it did support the Dems 50.9 to 47.7, so that's competitive. The other districts all lean toward the Republicans, enough so that they should not really be in play under most circumstances. And the blue districts are all heavily packed with the Dems. And again, if you go back to this map, you can clearly see that there is other blue vote out here. Again, Greensboro and Winston-Salem. Good chunk of voters there, but those cities are separate and combined with the much redder vote so that the Republicans can pick up a seat. This is what happens pretty much in every single state, depending on which party controls the process. Dems would do the exact same thing, but they would tweak the numbers just a little bit in their favor. So ultimately, you did have 4 districts voting for the Dems in the last election out of 14. So we're not going to analyze this to death. We're going to move on to the new map. And this shows you the new boundaries, and it's not that dissimilar from the previous map. All the action is pretty much located right here, but the rest of the map hasn't even changed. It's just designed to have this first district flipped toward the Republicans. So keep an eye on this right here as we switch to the new map. There it is. A few counties have changed and swapped districts. Again, you could go back to the old map and back to the current map. Very little going on here on this map, but sometimes that's all you need to take an even bigger advantage. We'll come back to this in a couple minutes. But what would a fair, more balanced map look like in this state? Well, to start out, let's look at the last presidential election. That's going to have the highest turnout and the most polarization. So here we've got Trump. He won the state by over 3 points. He's at about 50.9. Harris is at 47.7. So 3.2%. Not at all overwhelming. It's competitive. It's considered a swing state. And if you go down here and take a look at how Trump did in each congressional district, he did win 11 of those 14. The one in question is that first district. Even though it voted for Trump, at the same time, it supported Don Davis, the Democrat, for Congress. So that's the whole reason this map is being redrawn. The thinking is if Trump could win at the top, Republicans should have that seat down ballot. Well, even though at the highest office, Republicans have had more success, there are Democrats elected here statewide, including the governor in that same year, 2024. And this margin, much, much wider. Josh Stein won by almost 15%. He's at just under 55%. Now that's a different office. Those are totally different candidates with different issues. The Democrats can win here, just not recently for president. If you want to know how Josh Stein did in each congressional district, all of a sudden this map looks totally blue. And if we go down here, we can see what he did in each district. Mark Robinson, the Republican, only won 2 out of 14. Now, many of them were competitive, but still, this is the same election that Trump won by over 3%. That is a gigantic amount of crossover vote, about 18 points. So even though they're voting for Trump, it depends on the office and it depends on the candidates. Some people are going to cross over, and in this case, a lot of them. So in terms of a balanced map, we've got a little bit of background. But again, in the congressional, Republicans won 10 seats, Democrats pulled off 4 of them. Now, not every one of these districts had a Democrat and a Republican running in the general election, so that could skew some of these results. But 4 seats for the Dems comes out to less than 29% of the seats. Republicans are over 71. So what does a balanced map here look like? Well, it wasn't that long ago. The Dems controlled the state Supreme Court here. They were basically able to get an even map here, 7-7. So you might just leave it at that and say that would be a perfectly balanced map. Now, there are other factors that go into drawing a map, like the geography and the compactness. But when all the chips are down with max polarization for president, it does seem like Republicans are going to have a small advantage here. So in any state that has a lot of districts and one party controlling the process, I would expect them to have a small advantage. In this case, an 8-6 map would seem like a small advantage. In terms of balance, I don't think too many people would have a problem with that. Now, if you go beyond that to a 9-5 map, that does seem like you're taking a clear advantage. I think even considering that advantage, that should have been as far as the Republicans went with it. At that point, you could argue it's not up to the egregious level. Now, the 10-4 map, though, that does clearly get over the line into egregious territory. And that's what it already was, even though Trump won 11 of those 14. Does put this up there as one of the most imbalanced maps in the country. I haven't crunched all the new numbers, we're still looking at new maps, but it wouldn't shock me if this was the least fair map drawn by the Republicans. Now, if you compare it to the new California map, my guess is that new one is still going to be more unfair. Even the Illinois map could still be more unfair than this one, at least in my opinion, based on all the data I've seen so far. So it goes without saying that all the new maps drawn in each state are totally, wildly unfair. Some were already totally unfair before this, but it seems like in any state, if one party controls the redistricting process, as long as they have a slight advantage overall, they could take a massive advantage on the maps. If Dems control the whole process, they could easily do the same thing, taking an 8-6, maybe 9-5 or worse advantage. Anyway, let's look at those House results in the last election. Now in this column here, we've got the Cook PVI rating, although this seems to be a little bit outdated. Conveniently, the main thing we're focused on here is this first district, and that one you can see Don Davis defeated the Republican by less than 2%. There's also a Libertarian here who got 2.6. So in this old first district, here's a close-up of it. It covers the northeast coastal part of the state. And here's the demographics here. 48% white, 39% black. So I think Republicans were hoping to flip this in the last election, but it didn't happen. So in order to solve that problem, we've got these changes. Larry Sabato has the old map on the left and the new one on the right. And it also shows you Trump's margin in each district. The old one, Trump 3.2. The new one, he's up to 11.8. And the old district from 21.8 to 13.6. So it kind of averages out the two districts. So it does look like that's going to be way too much for Don Davis to survive. But there's still also the risk that in a big blue wave environment, Republicans could have overextended themselves on the rest of this map. You'd think they would have accounted for that, but you never know. Finally, let's get on Dave's redistricting and again take a look at this new map. Here they are shaded according to their partisan lean. Now again, this new first district, with the data from 2020 to 24 here at the right, that went more than 52% Republican. I think I can make this data just a little bit bigger. So that's what we've got. It's not a dark red district, and neither is the 3rd and the 7th, or the 11th out here in the West. But theoretically, they should be Republican enough that they win it for president as well as in the U.S. House. The rest of the map not really changed at all. We covered some of the packing and the cracking earlier in the video. And I think that's going to pretty much wrap it up here in the Tar Heel state. So let me know in the comments. What do you think about the new map? Is it going to stand? What about the old map? How fair or unfair do you think this map is? What would a fair map look like? You think it has to be 7-7? What about packing and cracking in some of these blue cities? Could any of this backfire in a blue wave? And how does this map compare to the other bad maps? Let me know down below. On your way out, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join if you'd like to support the channel. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.